Hey everybody, welcome back. We're live here again in our weekly video cast or weekly live session from Deep Dives EU. My name is Johannes van Wijnen. I'm the principal instructor with Deep Dives, with development, machine learning, and analytics backgrounds. With me, I've got Mikko, a very good friend, with a similar background. I'm going to tease you saying maybe a little bit more development and a little bit less machine learning, right?
Yeah, that's accurate.
So, so we're trying the same kind of format again with regards to last week. So we're starting off with some cloud news, right? And then this time, instead of kind of giving you a pre-selected, list of news, I just wanted to show you where we're actually going to see what is new, right? So we can share these URLs with you in video description. And here we have AWS's news page. I figured we go in this in size order, right? So we're starting off with AWS, and then we're taking Azure, and then Google Cloud Law, kind of based on the popularity. So we have some featured stuff here, but in the end, we have the actual news feed down here. And today is the 16th of March, so Saturday. So the latest news are from yesterday. Okay. Not interesting. Time stream for InfluxDB is now generally available. This is great news. Mikko, you want to tell us what Amazon Time Stream is?
Time series database. The
Yes.
short summary.
Yes. And kind of the functionality of Time Stream on its own is very similar to CloudWatch metrics. So I think there is some, technical commonality between them. But what we've got now is Time Stream for InfluxDB, right? So what is InfluxDB? InfluxDB is a open sourced time series database, right? That now also happens to be, I need to do something here. Yeah, but now also works as a commercial company. So the normal gig that the software is open source, but you can purchase it with support from this Influx Data company. So really interesting. I haven't had time to look at this, but I would presume that it works similarly to other things, that AWS has basically created a front end that is compatible with this open source project, but then the back end uses the same storage than the original time series, right? So it's easier for you to move from InfluxDB to Time Stream because you don't need to change the applications at all. Any insight, Mikko? You are just like, what is this? I've never heard.
Yeah, I absolutely no idea. Yeah, and soon it becomes clear why I have no idea about anything right now. After the news, we'll discuss what I did this morning. So my mind is empty.
Yeah. So the kind of supported version of InfluxDB is 2.7. And it has all of the same kind of functionalities that, for example, RDS has. So it has multi-AZ for high availability and so on, right? So no more about that. And we go further down. Most of these news items are just this like, okay, this service is now available in YZ. Right? So we don't really care about that. Cloud 3 Haiku model is available.
One question, as one of the news item up, just if you scroll just a little bit up, was the Flink or AWS backup is now available in AWS Canada West, the region, or the Apache Flink. Give us a brief kind of reasoning why these kind of major services like AWS backup, why are these services not available in every region?
Okay, yeah. So AWS. So if you haven't used AWS, it's kind of good to know that in AWS, each region is basically an instance of AWS, right? So kind of a very small number of services actually work across regions. So basically, from that point of view, AWS in Stockholm is totally separate from
Just independent
AWS,
from each other
yeah,
regions.
right? So
Mostly.
whatever service you're using, AWS backup or whatever, in Stockholm doesn't have anything to do with AWS backup in Frankfurt. So what they do is they do a kind of a delayed rollout of services and features. So they have certain regions which usually get new features or new services first. In Europe, it's very often Ireland. In the US, it's very often North Carolina or Oregon. And then instead of kind of rolling it out immediately, and then possibly if something goes wrong, creating a huge spike in support needs, they do that kind of one region at a time, right? So they also have a little bit of heterogeneity between regions. Just as an example, North Carolina sorry, North Virginia is the oldest region, the original region. And usually, if something goes wrong in AWS, that's where
It's there, yeah.
Or
Is it because of the oldest kind of pieces of hardware as well, or something
and
else?
services, right?
And
So like
services, yes.
think about the original customers who started to use AWS back when they only had that one region. And AWS is very well known in trying to not break any backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
So that's
So
kind
they
of
have
where some
old
of the
versions of
complexity.
services running there.
Yeah, and also another thing is that all of the billing and the IAM happens there. So it's kind of the one central, if your service needs to have one central region from AWS's point of view, then that's going to be there, North Virginia. So
Yeah.
So they are very different, and I guess they are more. The newer regions are kind of more standardized, so they
That makes
have
sense.
less. Yeah, they have less probabilities of things going wrong, and they have better test environments for
And
for
AWS has practiced rolling out a new environment several times already, again and again. So
yeah,
it's kind of a more ready
yeah.
solution nowadays than in the beginning when they created the first new region. But what's surprising is, like, for example, AWS backup, which you would think that, of course, well, backup sounds like one of the core services that, of course, we have that, but you don't. And that's one of the things
No,
that you really have to investigate when you start to.
that's because Canada West only became available just before Christmas, so only under 3 months ago.
So, and how many availability zones there are?
3.
Does it say?
I don't even have to look. I'm going to tell you 3.
Yeah, but there are exceptions, and
Not with new
there used to
ones.
be.
Not with
Yeah,
new regions. New regions
yeah, okay,
always have 3.
but still surprising. Like, but okay, when if you are moving to was it Canada West,
Yeah,
then US, so then you wouldn't maybe have the full production environment ready in 3 months if you start from scratch, like not from the AWS point, but from the client point of view. So
exactly. Yeah,
it would take time. So I bet we are going to see a lot of services being introduced to that Canadian region in the near
exactly.
future.
And this
Yeah.
is just in case there are any architects listening, just kind of remember that when you're doing your disaster recovery plans, then kind of make sure that as you add services to your primary region, that those services also need to be available in the in the disaster recovery region, right? Which is not given. We cannot trust that.
So some surprises might be there.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult then, once disaster hits, then you try to move everything over to the new region, and then suddenly you see, oops, this is missing some service that I actually need.
As long as you have the data, it's a pretty good starting point. But
yeah,
of course.
you're right.
So let's proceed.
Yeah. So like I said, like the majority of these news are not really interesting. They're minor. So I already went through them, and I didn't see any interesting things except for the InfluxDB one. Honestly, nothing weird happening here.
But
just additional.
There is kind of small things that are being written as news items. Of course, those are not small things for those who are using that specific service and are waiting for new things.
Or you're in that specific region and you're kind of waiting for a service to be available there. Then it makes sense. But literally, that's it. There were some pretty big changes in CloudFormation. Maybe pick that up here. So it's supposed to be sped up quite a bit, which is good. We have all been waiting. I have grown too much hair while waiting for CloudFormation stack to be deployed. Another thing is that we get a little bit more insight. There are actually multiple changes in CloudFormation lately that make it easier to use. But still, it's a small thing. It's not like a new product, right? So that's basically it for AWS. The next we pick up on Azure. So Azure also has a similar page, but with Azure, it seems that the majority of the news are retirements.
Like the other way.
Administrator roles are retiring. Visual Studio App Center is retiring. Support for application gateway web applications is retiring, and so on and so on. It's just a matter of how you say things, right? So in AWS, they don't retire things very often, and then if they would, they maybe wouldn't put it on the news blog, right? But there's nothing big here. One thing that's interesting here that I looked at is that there was this news item that Azure IoT Edge supports Ubuntu core snaps. But I remember that Azure said that they will end their IoT product. So why would they do something like this?
Something else is coming up?
Or is it IoT Central that they are ending? Could be that I've just anyway, one of the IoT products in Azure was ending, which is something that we have seen before. Okay, Mikko, where?
Say again, what?
Like 2 years ago, Google ended their IoT. I don't remember the product name, but
no
definitely their
recollection.
IoT Central product. And now Azure is also deprecating it. So the only one that is left is actually AWS.
So Google didn't bring anything new, like after?
No. It was a huge news item because a lot of companies had built on that platform. And then Google just said that they're going to end it in 1 year time. So everybody was kind of caught with their pants down, having to find another solution.
So basically, they had to either implement something on their own or move to Azure or AWS.
Yeah, I think if you've moved to Azure,
interesting business strategy.
Then now Azure would also deprecate it, so that you need to move again.
But there must be a reason. Is it like commercially not viable, or?
It could be, of course, right? So somehow these kinds of products don't make enough money compared to what you need to invest into them. But I have one news item that is new for Azure. And you remember this from last week? We were talking about this.
So this was the
So
first one.
Google.
Google was first one. Okay, this is published March 13th, so 3 days ago. Okay, so now
Yeah.
all three are.
Yeah. And there is some reasoning. So I read to the Register. It's an online tech news site very often, and there was some thinking there that this is due to some EU rules, that the EU will not allow, companies holding
The vendor lock-in.
your data hostage, basically. Or think like if you're like from the EU regulator point of view, hypothetically, you are some kind of consumer service, maybe a big company, and then you have your customer data in the cloud. Now, if you go bankrupt, then people will not have access to their data anymore because you will have to pay to get it back. So there is this kind of reasoning in that in some cases, at least, that there needs to be a methodology for you to retrieve that data, even though you don't have money to pay for it. So I think that's kind of not immediately the reasoning, but somewhere down the line.
But now that all three, and I have no business background, but all three of these, Google, Azure, AWS, they are now doing this. So basically, it was the same situation as a couple of weeks ago when nobody was doing it from the business point of view. So there's basically no change, except it makes it easier to transfer to someone else. So okay, maybe not maybe the customers are winning with this, but basically, I would say on average, without having any data, on average, the cloud vendors are not losing any customers.
Exactly.
Because if somebody's going away, then as easily someone is coming in.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Let's go through other stuff here. Memory fit. Multiple Java things. Who said that the age of Java has passed? Except for me. So
well, it wasn't me.
Azure Container Apps, lots of Java stuff in preview.
Well, the first similar thing I've heard was maybe 20 years ago when I was told that COBOL will never go away.
Yeah.
The people who told me that, they are retired already, but the applications are probably still running.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. And we're running COBOL on AWS Lambda nowadays, right?
Mm-hmm.
Epicenter, no, nothing really interesting, at least that comes to my. This is usually the low season for product announcements anyway, right? So not really surprised. Okay, moving over to Google. So kind of showing you the differences here is that AWS's news are basically kind of blog posts, and then Microsoft has kind of proper kind of product update pages, and then Google has this kind of single page that just lists a little bit in a release note fashion the changes
that looks like GitHub page.
Yeah, exactly, right? So okay, well, backup restore OIDB Omni. Okay, the artifact registry. Chronicle, data flow, blah blah blah. Nothing interesting. Bug, fix. Literally, it's like there's so much more detail here.
So if you have a lot of details there, then who would find anything from there? So who is this for?
Yeah, you would kind of, well, this is what I found. right? So you could filter. So basically, I think you can just look at individual products, but we are not interested in individual products. We are actually interested in finding, what is new. So this is kind of, for our use case, this is the best way to look at that, right? So LIDB continuous backup and recovery. That's kind of cool. But yeah, for me, it's more like also to see, which products are working on, which ones are not. So if you see a single product every day, then you know that people are working on it. Whereas if something doesn't really show up here, then it doesn't really matter. Do we have here? Where are these causes? It's just a kernel, right? Yeah. Anyway, so on a higher level, I found one news item that is kind of interesting. Let's see if we can find that from I think the security command center. No, it was the here we go. Yeah, security command center enterprise. I got it here. So this is now in general availability, and this is interesting. So in Google, I don't know how many people know this, but Google acquired a company called Mandiant. The name of that company comes from the founder, who was Kevin Mandia. so Mandiant. So it got purchased, and they are a security as a service company, right? So the whole shebang of security services are available from them, and Google is now integrating those functions of those products into their own security center service, and for them, just having security command center working on your Google Cloud infrastructure is not enough. What they're saying that they want to do is they want the Google Security Command Center Enterprise to be the one place where you handle security for all of your cloud, right? Including AWS and Azure and others. And they're specifically using this Mandiant technology to work with that. So there's lots of AI in here. I think that's an interesting setting. So instead of just kind of saying that, you have your security center here in AWS that takes care of your AWS security needs, because Google is the smallest hyperscaler, they're going to go this way. Right? We know that we don't run on Google, just run our security center on the workload that you run elsewhere, right? So very interesting kind of setting.
Hey, do you have any statistics or kind of do you remember how many or kind of how common it is to run a multi-cloud solution? Not just stick with one vendor, but like really distribute and use services from different vendors.
Yeah, so I don't have any new stats on it, but based on my experience reading and also actually instructing different clients, the bigger the organization is, the more likely they have a multi-cloud strategy.
Yep,
so
that's
like,
what I've
big,
said as well.
Yeah, the really big companies might have like a preferred cloud partner, but they kind of have to have a strategy in place to migrate between cloud providers. And that's just the way it is, or that they use them all. Like just this week, I was in Munich training a fairly large company, and for example, they use all hyperscalers, and they get into trouble because of that as well, because there are less standards available.
Yeah, I'm always thinking about, well, not always, but thinking from the kind of software and system maintenance point of view, and becomes harder and harder to maintain stuff if you're using different kinds of things. But also from a high availability point of view, then you're not relying 100% on one vendor.
Yeah, exactly, and it's also about the vendor lock-in.
Mhm.
So you know that the technology choices that you make need to sustain the change of a vendor, so you cannot totally lock into something that is only available with one
It forces you
provider.
to design, make choices that work on other platforms as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of Google's selling point very often, is that they're saying that with us, when you run containers, it's Kubernetes, and everybody has Kubernetes. So because they're the smallest, so they have to have this ideology. Or if you want to run BigQuery, we will run BigQuery for you on AWS or on Azure as well, right? So you don't have to run it on our infrastructure if you like the product. So that's what they have to do, because they're the smallest player or the smallest of the three players. So whenever we're talking about cloud providers with Mikko, we tend to overlook the so-called minor players, which I think the biggest of which would be probably Alibaba, and then Oracle, IBM,
IBM.
DigitalOcean. You could say it's more of an IaaS provider, but still getting there. And there's so many. But yeah, in general, we are only interested in the three big ones, that so-called hyperscalers.
Okay, for example, Alibaba, who are there? Is it more to customers who are operating towards east from Europe, or is it really valid approach in Europe as well? Would it? I don't know.
You could, right? Like AWS 15 years ago, they had two regions, one in the US and one in Europe. So why not? So they are clearly smaller, but they have a better distribution of regions in China. So if, let's say that China happens to be a little bit of a problem anyway, with regards to running anything there. But like a valid strategy could be that you choose one of the hyperscalers for your implementations excluding China, and then you would use Alibaba for China.
For Chinese, yeah.
That would be something that could make.
could be
But you
from
would
the
run like
regulation.
a management layer elsewhere, and then the actual virtual machines.
Could be from the regulations point of view, something that you have to do as well, so that you really have to run the workloads in China, like physically in China.
Yeah, it's not only that. I think if you run workloads regarding data that originates in China, then also the operators need to be Chinese nationals, right? So you can't even remotely
Right. So
operate.
yeah. Oh.
So it's like, but yeah.
All right.
So that was the news that I found. Not really much happened, and like I said, it's a bit of a quiet period. One interesting news that has nothing to do with hyperscalers, but IT, is the McDonald's outage. Did you hear about that?
So do you have any info on that? Or intel on
Let me
that?
just.
What happened? I've been so
So
busy that I just read the headlines and I was smiling, at least internally, and
yeah.
because it
So there was
seems like
a
a single
technical.
point of failure type of problem.
Yeah, there was some kind of a technical problem, and you immediately see here configuration change. Right? So somebody screwed up, changed some parameters, and then that had an effect on actually the global McDonald's network. So in here, in this news item from BBC, it says that stores in the UK, Australia, and Japan were stopped taking orders, like their cash system stopped working. But there were actually additional problems as well. For example, the McDonald's app stopped working worldwide. So one of those things where a small configuration change suddenly costs you a whole lot.
Single point of failure somewhere. I
And
mean,
it's most likely a human error, right?
yeah. I'm sure it is. But is your system built correctly if a configuration? I'm pretty sure this was not a huge configuration change, but critical,
Yeah.
and it makes it impossible for you to sell hamburgers in Japan and Australia and UK.
And UK, yeah.
How?
Well,
That's probably a good textbook example of for later years to how not to build your system to be like relying on some resource or something, and then everything
to
is
be fair, this has happened. This happens every now and then. Usually,
Mhm.
it's a networking problem. So somehow somebody enters manually a wrong network range to be broadcast, like saying that, like let's say that you have, the IP address is 123.x available in a rack, and then the idea is that your local router tells everybody that, hey, I have IP addresses that start with 1.2.3, and then that propagates over the whole internet over time.
And but still, your system is not very resilient to to problems like that if you cannot sell hamburgers because somebody makes a mistake
Yeah,
in,
but the
in a
mistake.
different continent.
Yeah, but the problem is that the mistake can be as simple as somebody by accident setting a router to say that they actually have access to 0.0.0.0, and then all networking stops.
Imagine somebody doing this on purpose, knowing about these problems inside any company, and makes these changes either as an attack or retaliation or something like that. Huge,
Well, that's why
huge problems
we
can
don't
be.
make imperative changes, right?
Yeah,
That's why we only make changes declaratively, and they go through a CI/CD pipeline, and they will be linted and checked.
that's how you should make changes, but we know that is not the case.
Well,
The theory
once you
doesn't
make
match
the
the
change
practice.
like McDonald's, then maybe you change the way that you do changes.
I'm not eating at McDonald's very often, so it's not a problem.
Poor networking intern now gets kicked out of McDonald's IT team because he made one mistake and people couldn't get hamburgers anymore.
It's of course it's not a fun thing if it's actually a fault of a person. Of course not. It's kind of funny, but for that person, of course, it's not fun.
For the person's point of view,
people make mistakes regardless of on which field you operate in. It's not only in IT or software in IT or wherever.
Yeah.
Instructors make mistakes, and of course that's human, and that's actually why we want to get rid of humans when it comes to some parts of the processes that we deal with. It's just better not to rely on people, for example, following instructions and then manually making changes in all kinds of things, not only in IT.
Yeah, one acquaintance of mine, Adrian Holmesby, who works now on the EC2 team at AWS, specifically the fault injection team. So he's a big fan of chaos engineering. So he I sometimes yeah, I sometimes invite him to do some talks, and he always tells this story that he used to work for Nokia in Finland, and when he kind of started off his career, he actually dropped the production, database, the production operative database, by accident. So he
Like
thought he
really
was
drop
in
database.
he thought he was in the test environment, but he was in the production environment.
Oops.
And he didn't get fired.
He got promoted.
But but he learned a lot about.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing for whomever, if it is somebody who made this mistake, most likely they will have pretty good learning from that.
Yeah. They will never forget that mistake.
All right.
Yep.
So
Okay.
our real
next?
topic, it was a little bit about what we really do, right? So we are instructors, and I'm just going to start with what I did this week, and then Mikko, if maybe you can, enlighten us a little bit about what you did this week, and maybe next one as well, right? So this week I was in Munich doing a live class with a large customer, teaching them how to use Apigee, which is the kind of I don't want to say Google API gateway because it's much more. Apigee is like an API gateway company that was acquired by Google. So it's a whole huge system, but it works as the API gateway. So basically a single place where you can do all of the transformation and authentication of any APIs or any backend. And the 3-day course, and this is one of the customers where they specifically asked me to come to teach a course. So they kind of know how they know that when they do a course with me, then we will have lots of discussions about their specific problems, and we will try to figure out what the best solutions are in their context, right? And this, of course, only works if it's a private class for a specific customer. You can't do that in a public class at all. But yeah, that was a interesting 3 days for me. So I just got back here 12 hours ago. So past midnight last night. And I'm now starting to look at my next course, which is SageMaker. Where was it? Well, it's a public course. So any of you who might be listening, you can come and listen to me if you want to. Let's see, can we find it here? We do a not that one. Machine learning, yes. We want SageMaker. We want language to be English. SageMaker Studio for data scientists. So it's next Tuesday till Thursday, and it's this one. There we go. You're going to listen to me for 3 days. Go ahead. There are plenty of seats available. We'll put the link in the show notes as well. And because this is Tuesday through Thursday, that means that I have Monday and Friday to create content. Yay!
Which is
What about
sometimes
you,
fun.
Mikko? Yeah. What about you, Mikko?
What did I do?
Yeah.
This week, now it's Saturday now, but I was delivering an online course, DevOps engineering on AWS, for 3 days, from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And on Friday morning, I went to live training to be trained, not to be the trainer, generative AI course run by AWS in AWS Helsinki office. And I'm pretty sure that would have been a super good course, but my youngest kid was ill, and I was just visiting the 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 AWS office, and I had to go back home because my kid was alone at home. So I was doing the labs related to the course, but the workshop, but I was actually I was not able to listen to the training, which would have been really good, especially since this morning, uh, I took part of or how do you say, I went to the machine learning specialty certification exam. I sat there for 3 hours, and right after that I just had barely time to eat something, because I of course I ate only a little bit of breakfast, and then to the exam, and almost right after that we have this discussion with Johannes. So my mind is empty. I have no idea how the exam went. Didn't feel too difficult, no ridiculously hard questions, but that's quite often how it feels with AWS certification exams. So I've been preparing for that for a bit longer, and now I don't remember when was the last time I was doing content, but definitely I've been focusing on this certification exam. But yeah, that's my week, and next week I don't know, maybe I don't have any course deliveries, at least right now, in my calendar, so I may be writing blog posts or preparing blog posts and content, and maybe it's our
Yeah.
internal documentation and things like that. Maybe I will listen to Johannes delivering his SageMaker course.
Ooh. Yeah, maybe write a blog post about the your experience with the exam. It's always interesting. So because something has happened to this exam lately. I don't remember, when did I go through this last time?
It's still the first version, though.
Yeah.
Like the official version number is still the same as the original one.
I know.
But
It doesn't.
this is a different kind of a certification exam compared to the others. I think this was my ninth ish, something like that. And the other exams are about AWS services, and the more you have done those exams or passed those exams, the easier they kind of get, because all the related services that are part of the questions, more and more about them. So
Yeah.
it becomes easier and easier, at least to prepare yourself for the exam, because there are less completely new things that you have to learn. But
I had to look it up. I took this
okay,
exam the first time in December 2019.
okay.
So for 4 years and 4 months ago. And I
And it
remember
was more
vividly.
about machine learning theory as well, or like pure
Yes.
machine
So
learning.
literally back then there was like a TF-IDF example question on the website, and I actually got a TF-IDF question, like what are the dimensions of the TF-IDF matrix, if
Mhm.
blah, blah, blah. Which was surprisingly hard, kind of, or of course it's not if you know TF-IDF, but considering that not everybody uses that when doing machine learning, and a lot of error calculations, knowing what types of errors, calculating or giving some numbers, you needed to know what the accuracy was, so on.
There were maybe 2, 3. I don't. Of course, my mind is blank after the exam, but let's say 2 to 4 just pure machine learning related questions, which had nothing to do with AWS at all. So
With me, it
I
was
guess it has
over.
the weights have been moved a little bit, so that it's not emphasizing on that anymore.
Well, mine was like over 50% were like
Yeah,
that.
so definitely not like that.
And then the ones that weren't technical with machine learning were about the machine learning process. So kind of understanding whether you are underfitting or overfitting, and then what you do about it. Whether you do some,
There were questions about that. Yeah, definitely.
you use mode or something else to take care of class imbalance. And,
yeah. Yeah. Class imbalance.
yeah, that all of that, and how to when to throw away data, when to try to infer it, and so on and so on. So clearly back then it was at least a product or an exam that was testing that machine learning basics at least. So that somebody who would just read through stuff once would probably not be able to pass it, and it was considered kind of one of the toughest exams. But that was partially because back then we didn't really have many products for machine learning. Right?
And now you do. There are so many.
Now we have SageMaker, right?
SageMaker and other products, and also I can tell by the questions that the emphasis is also on the services, or in general, that there are services that allow people with very little background regarding machine learning or like technical abilities. The services are built in such a way that you can actually easily use them. But then, of course, it's important to know about like the theory part when it comes to machine learning. But still, so many automated processes that will just figure out what's the best model for you to use and what are the hyperparameters and auto tuning, all that. So things are changing.
So I'm waiting for you to do a nice long blog post about how to prepare for the exam once you're taking it now. My previous take was about 1 year ago, and then there was already this shift towards SageMaker, but we still had a lot of those basic machine learning questions back.
So was it you had to redo the exam because the last one was how long is it valid?
3 years.
3.
The previous one was 4 years and 4 months ago, so it had expired. So I had to retake it in I think just about 1 year ago, March 2023. But yeah, so cool, and I think we'll also try to talk a little bit more about what we do in the future. People might be interested in what day by day is actually included in the life of a cloud instructor, except just instructing and having this weekly hour of babbling.
Yeah, we do more.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are, of course, moments when you only deliver a course, 3-day course, and yeah, sometimes you work less, which also makes it possible for you to sometimes work a little bit more, have a good balance.
Yes. Exactly. Cool. I don't have anything else to talk about. We're almost at an hour, so we can call it a day. Just in case you're interested in the SageMaker course, the link should be in the show notes. So go ahead, say hi to me if you're in the course. I'll send you a T-shirt in return. Okay. It's also something that we do every now and then. Did you send any T-shirts in your class this week?
Nope.
Not good enough students this week.
No, it was not about that. We had a good crowd. We had a good crowd.
Cool. So if anybody who was present is listening, hi, and hopefully you'll come back next week, even we did throw you under the bus. But yeah, that's it for me. If you don't have anything else, then let's call it a week. See you back next Saturday.
See you next Saturday.
Till then.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.